Today we're on the road visiting artist Douglas Freed at his studio in Sedalia, Missouri. The paintings of Douglas Freed exist between representation and abstraction in a realm that few other painters can really call their own. For over 20 years, Freed painted entirely abstractly, but over time he began to see references of landscapes in his abstractions. Gradually, Freed began to incorporate aspects of the landscape, such as times of day and light, in a depict or triptych painted form. Most recently, the multi-panel paintings, as you'll see throughout the program, have transitioned into a single canvas as Freed continues to explore the transcendence of nature through a synthesis of visual experience. The passage of time, light, color, and atmosphere. Freed's paintings continue to evolve in his search for an abstract means to embrace that ambiguity of the physical and spiritual experience of light and its power to foster a more intense life of the spirit through profound emotional experience of form, color, and composition. Well, Doug, the clock is ticking away, so now I'll just ask you to fill us in on all those interesting things that have happened the past few months since your visit at the round table. First, as a brief review, please give the new viewers worldwide a look at how you became inspired to be an artist.
Rick, I'm happy to be with you again. It's my pleasure to welcome this audience of your viewers. Most of my life has been spent showing in urban areas away from Missouri, so it's really nice to have a Missouri artist become more acquainted with my work. I have shown, in major cities and continue to be represented in major cities across the country. I have galleries in St. Louis and Kansas City, which are my kind of home base galleries. But I also have a gallery in Tulsa, I have a gallery in Houston, I have a gallery in Charleston, a gallery in Miami. Until just recently, I've had a gallery in Chicago, Boston, and New York City, as well as San Francisco. So most of my life is, spent going from my studio here in Sedalia to those galleries, to exhibitions and shows. I've been really fortunate to be represented by some major galleries across the country and continue to still do that. As an artist, I started at a very young age, but I had a really great teacher in the 4th grade who recognized that I had some art talent. And at that time, this was been in the late 1950s, in Kansas, the state of Kansas sponsored a litter bug contest. And so my 4th grade teacher had all of her students, and I think the whole school participated in this, and all the schools in the little town of Ulysses, Kansas, is where I live, participated in this contest. And so I did a poster for the litter bug contest statewide, and I won the 1st place as a 4th grader. And that really opened up a lot of doors to me, because all the school recognized me from that point in time as an artist. And of course, my 4th grade teacher gave me an opportunity. We had just moved into a brand new elementary school that had just been constructed. And in that school were 4 large bulletin boards. I mean, you know, these bulletin boards were well over 8 foot, 4 foot by 8 foot, 4 foot by 10 foot, somewhere in there. But anyway, they were large bulletin boards. And she dreaded the idea of what she was going to do with that bulletin board in this brand new building, as well as all the other teachers did likewise. And so she asked me if I would be interested, after winning this contest, that if I'd be interested in decorating one of those bulletin boards with a Halloween theme. Well, of course, I welcomed that opportunity. And I asked her if I could ask a couple of my classmates to help me, be my assistants on this project. And so I did the the Halloween one, and it was a big, big hit in the school. And it was even a bigger hit with the other teachers because they hated having to do those bulletin boards. And so they turned over for the next, well, from the 4th grade through the 8th grade, these bulletin boards to me to design and execute with a team of students that I picked to help me. And that was great training for me. I mean, you know, as a big part of my career was being a curator at the Dahm Museum of Contemporary Art. And I think at this early age, I was able to kind of curate, you know, those assistants, and gave me some administrative experience, which I think has paid off, you know, tremendously for me. But that was a wonderful experience, and all my teachers gave me tremendous support throughout my education in elementary school, and even in college, you know, when I went for my BFA and my MA degrees, I had some wonderful, wonderful educators behind me at that time. So by the time I was in high school, I was already recognized as kind of, you know, the artist out of my class, and pretty much out of the school. So that really added to my reputation, you know, as kind of the town artist. And so one thing led to another, and I, you know, went on to college and got my degree, and ended up coming to Sedalia, Missouri to start an art department in a brand new community college that had just opened up. And I stayed in that position for 30 years, was the chairman of the art department, was able to build that into a multi-person department, and had 3 different new buildings during that period of time, that 30-year period of time, and ended up with the marvelous facilities that we have at State Fair Community College for art now, including the Dahm Museum of Contemporary Art, which I was one of the co-founders of that and the first director, and stayed in that position for about 9 years. That includes a couple of years before I became the director in supervising the planting and the construction and that kind of thing of the facility. But I did that with Dr. Harold F. Dahm. And of course the museum is the Dahm Museum of Contemporary Art. Well, my most recent exhibit I was just preparing for the last time we met, and that was Sherry Leidy Contemporary Art, which I had in kind of mid-2018. And that show was called Winter Light. And since that time, I've been working on a series of paintings that are called Mystical Light. And I'm going to have that exhibition at Bruno David Gallery. It was scheduled to be in June of this year. And of course, because of COVID, it was canceled. Not canceled, but postponed. And as soon as St. Louis opens up, I will have that show, and I'll be showing some of the work that's going to go into that show. So hopefully that won't be too far off. You know, perhaps later this summer or maybe early fall, depends on when galleries are able to open in St. Louis. The same scenario has happened to me in Charleston, at my gallery there, Mary Martin Contemporary Art. And I've shipped the whole body of work to her. And that show was scheduled to open March the 6th. And if everybody remembers, you know, March the 6th is when they started shutting things down all across the United States. And of course, the mayor of Charleston closed Charleston to any kind of visitors. And of course, it's a major tourist town. But my exhibit I had shipped beforehand. I wasn't able to go to the opening because my wife and I had tickets to the film festival in Columbia. And so I had a previous commitment to that. And so I had shipped my work to Mary Martin, and the exhibition had been installed, and the opening of the exhibition was the 6th of March. Well, it never opened. That was the day that the mayor of Charleston shut down Charleston. So that's been major disappointment to me. That work is installed in the gallery as we speak, and as soon as they open up Charleston for tourism again, and galleries are one of the last things that they open up because there's so many people that go into galleries, that show will be open and my work will be seen there. So in preparing for the show in Charleston, something happened. I don't know. I'd been working on black and white paintings, for the Sherry Leedy show, and even the show at Bruno's, the paintings are somewhat subdued. And so, bam, all of a sudden it occurred to me that I wanted to work with color. And boy, have I ever worked with color. I've never done paintings this bright. To me, they look a little garish. It's hard for me to come to a realization that these are even my paintings. But hopefully other people will find them interesting and beautiful. And I'll be showing you those paintings, as we do the walkthrough. I'll show you some. Because I have some that are not the paintings that are going to be shown in Charleston, but out of the same body of work, which I've continued to paint these last few months. That's what I've been focused on. It's very colorful, skies and water. Well, these colorful paintings have been a really major change to me. And I've really enjoyed exploring color. It's opening up a whole new world for me. And at my age, you don't have too many new worlds open up. So I'm excited about that.
Well, Doug, are there any acknowledgments noted these past 23 months in your art challenges?
The State of Missouri Historical Society just accepted one of my paintings into their permanent collection. And so that's quite an honor to me because it's, I'll be in a collection which has major Thomas Hart Benton paintings. And that painting, should be hanging here very quickly. They've picked out a place in the kind of the ground floor just as you come into the place with a nice big wall of my painting. And the painting they accepted is a Missouri scene of prairie that I did, we here in Pettis County, we have a part of our county that is kind of tall grass prairie. So that's what the painting is, and the painting is 8 foot by 8 foot, so it's a very large painting. So I'm pleased to have that piece in that collection. Another thing that has happened just recently is that I was awarded the Albert Nelson Lifetime Achievement by Marquee Who's Who. Now, I've been in Who's Who for 33, 34 years straight. But this is a lifetime achievement award, and it's really given to those people that are not only artists but people throughout all different kinds of careers, and it's based on your activities, primarily with non-for-profits and that kind of thing. And of course, I've spent a great deal of my life being involved with non-for-profits such as the Missouri Arts Council, in recent years, for the last 10 years, Mid-America Arts Alliance. So that was quite nice to receive that award.
Well, welcome back to the studio of Douglas Freed here in Sedalia, Missouri. I'm Rick J., your host. Well, Doug, you shared so much information. The first segment, we will now turn to you for a tour of your studio.
I want to start with a studio walkthrough with this painting from 1996. And I purposely dug this out of my storage. It's one that I've kept for my own collection. It's one that I haven't ever really had out there in the marketplace because I loved it from the day that I painted it. And I think it's a really important painting for me because it was a transitional painting from the abstractions and geometric structures that I had been doing for the first 20 years of my career. And so in '96, after doing this painting and a couple others at the same point in time, I started seeing references to landscape in these paintings. And if you notice, this is a diptych. It's 2 panels. So the one panel kind of shows us references to sunset, to, you know, the light filtering through, you know, late in the afternoon or evening. And it kind of touches base with what I've been doing recently, and that's why I wanted to show it as the beginning point. And then this side was always, in this body of work, a kind of void. And so you have the juxtaposition from the kind of landscape imagery to the void. It's almost devoid of any kind of reference to nature. But if you look at it close, you can see that it is a pond with fog on the pond, early morning. You have to look for it close, but it's there. So that is a nice beginning for me. I felt like from that period of time that I could start to do landscape. I mean, it was shocking to me to do landscape because I'd been an abstract artist my whole life. But I think this painting opened up a whole lot of doors for me. And I've pursued that for another since 1996, so for a very long period of time. The painting we just looked at was a diptych, so it was 2 panels. This is a triptych, and if you notice, you can see the seams in the triptych. See, there's a seam here and a seam over here. And so there's 3 different panels that come together to make a very large-scale painting. And that was kind of the thing that I pursued from the very beginning of these landscape paintings. I always did triptychs or diptychs, so 2 panels or 3 panels. But here I've introduced a vertical element, which most of my paintings had always been kind of a horizontal element, like that painting that you just saw. But this one is trees, and I've tried to keep the trees pretty abstract. You know, there's even raw canvas in the trees, and I wanted these to be a little juicier, a little bit more colorful, and a little bit more painterly. So, and the name of this is, I think, Sunset Poem. So here I'm looking at almost a white painting. And of course, I've been doing the winter paintings, and this is one of the first paintings after the winter paintings that I completed, which was a Sherry Leedy show last year. And so here the sun or the light is coming through it so blastingly that you know, it's bleached it out. So my concept was to do a real early morning light painting. And that's what I tried to do. And it's a diptych, it's 2 panels. This is another diptych, but this one, what I'm trying to deal with here is daylight and evening light in the same painting. So that's why one panel is very light and the other panel is dark. So this is evening light, and this is morning light. Okay, this painting we're looking at now is a single panel painting, and that was a big jump for me because I've been doing these diptychs and triptychs for years and years. And getting ready for this exhibition I had last year at Sherry Leedy's, I decided that I would do just some single panel paintings. So the paintings aren't as big as my diptychs and triptychs are, but I think that this is a particularly nice one because I introduced strong color. And a lot of people look at this and they think, wow, that's a fire. And of course it was done during the times of all those fires in California. But it's not. It's evening light, so it's a sunset. So this was the beginning of the sunsets. And of course it's in the wintertime, and so the whole ground, snow, whatever you will, is illuminated by that orange light. This painting is another tree painting, and this is a little bit more obvious that this is a snow painting, you know. So it's part of the winter series, which we've looked at a number. The last one, the orange one, was part of the winter series too. Now I'd like to transition to this painting down below and show you it, because it's part of my more recent series, which is called Mystical Light, and it is one of the paintings that will be in my show in St. Louis at Bruno David Gallery. Okay, the last painting we just looked at was a painting that will be in the Bruno David show. Now I'm showing you the whole series of paintings that will be in the Bruno David show. And these two paintings that you're seeing up there are both about atmosphere, you know, and they're both kind of fog over, you know, trees, or on the one on the left, over water. But that's something I've always been interested in, is a kind of spiritual nature of fog, and how it makes everything, softens it, and seems to have a kind of mystical quality to it. So that's why the name of the show is Mystical, Mystical Light. That's what I'm dealing with here. Here are two more of paintings that are about that kind of valley. You're on the edge of a precipice of some kind and looking off into the valley. This painting we're looking at now is the same view. I'm up on that high cliff looking down over the valley, and again there's fog in the valley. And on both of these the last one I showed you and this one, I'm really starting to explore color in these paintings. This is another painting with fog, and this is kind of the beginning of close-ups of trees that I've moved into during this same period of time. But what I'm trying to capture is, again, that very mysterious, mystical light that you find when fog is either in the morning or in the evening. And I'm exploring color. This is another one of the same series, Mystical Light, and this will be in the Bruno David show as well. The last one and this one are kind of a set. I mean, they really work together, particularly when they're hanging close together. So that kind of shows you what the Bruno David show is going to be. And hopefully that show will be before too long. You know, it was originally scheduled for June the 15th, and of course COVID wiped that out. So it will be rescheduled whenever St. Louis opens. I'm showing you now examples of what the pieces in Charleston look like at Mary Martin Contemporary Art. These are the last 4 paintings that I have completed, of course, since I've shipped that work to Mary Martin. But I wanted to give you a taste here in the studio of you know, similar works. These are the sky, water, sunsets. So now I'd like for you, the camera, to kind of, if you could shift over here to these photographs, because I think that gives, you know, the viewers a sense of my source. And if you can look at some of these photographs here, you can kind of see, now there's not a specific one. A lot of my paintings are very much just invented. You know, they're just invented things. I do a lot of photography. I look at a lot of sunsets wherever I can see them, on the internet, whatever. I have a son-in-law that's a marvelous landscape photographer, and as he travels, he shoots source material for me. Sometimes I use it, sometimes I don't. But whatever I'm using, whatever I'm working from, the photograph is a beginning point. For instance, here you can see, these are 2 photographs, and then here's the finished painting. This is a painting, you know, pretty much from this source. And the one right here in the middle is pretty much from this source. And so you can see I've changed up the landscape, I've changed the configuration. I use these as color references and structure references. But as you look at these are some, this is one that you saw up front that I talked about. It was day and night. And then, of course, these are the earlier pieces that Rick showed on my last program. That was the Sherry Leedy show that I was getting ready to do the very end of 2018. But all of this body of work is in that Charleston show, and I'm pretty pleased with that. I'm very pleased with this one. I think that's a nice, that's about as real as I get, is that one up there, I think. But even it's very abstracted. Okay, we're right here in front of my painting table, and you can see all these paper palettes that I've spread out. And when I paint a painting, I use tons of brushes. So you see all of these brushes, and I'll go through maybe 30 brushes when I'm doing a painting. But I think the thing that's interesting to people is that I use very large brushes. I love these Egberts. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Egberts, artists that are watching. But this is a really elongated brush with big long hairs, and it's great to load up, and you can get a whole lot of paint on the canvas. And then I use even brushes like this. But the thing I think that is the great secret, if there is one, about my process is that, you know, the brush that finalizes the painting is that after I get the painting completely finished or close to finished, it looks very impressionistic because these big brushes deposit paint in globs. And so I come over the painting and I'll brush that painting with these big brushes horizontally, I'll do a grid. Horizontal grid, and then I'll do a vertical grid. Now it's not quite that formulaic, but that's pretty much it. And what that does is it fuses all of the paint together, and that's what gives me that very soft atmospheric quality, blurry, if you will, that my work is about.
Well, thank you, Doug. That was a great tour of your gallery. I sure appreciate you being back with us the second time here at JCTV.
Well, thank you so much, Rick. It's been a real pleasure, and it's always a delight to share my studio with people and talk about my work. I mean, it's nothing that makes an artist happier than talking about his work. Maybe someone buying his work, but you know, talking about the work.
Well, it's very educational, informational.